Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg here in Las Vegas, coming off a big weekend in college and pro football. The end of the baseball season. Congratulations to the Boston Red Sox. They were the best team this year, Hank.
Well, I picked the Red Sox to win, as you might recall. I said I liked the Red Sox in 5, and it came out that way. I was very fortunate that it wasn't a sweep, because the Dodgers weren't in their class in any way possible. And you can't win ball games in the World Series when you average 1.5 runs per game. Ain't gonna happen. Their bats went to sleep on them. Actually, in the league championship series, but the Red Sox pitching staff was too much for them. Even in that 18-inning game, they didn't get a ball out of the infield in the one game that they won. In that last inning, didn't get the ball out of the infield. It was only on a bonehead play by the second baseman that they were able to score a run and win that game. So, they were a hitting disaster.
They really were.
You can't win if you can't hit, and that's what the story of that series was for them. And, the pitching staff had so much pressure on them because, the Red Sox were able to score enough runs. And the Red Sox, every game but one, they were scoring 4 or 5 and more. And so they were just a better team by a lot. Hey, they won 108 games this year. So that should have been the tip-off. And they made the key additions. Dombrowski did a great job on his staff in getting key additions. Guys like Pierce, who was the MVP in the series, they hit the long ball when they had to. They were very well managed. And, they can blame the manager of the Dodgers if they want to, but what's he supposed to do when his guys don't hit?
Well, they were the better team. There's no question about it. I'd like to just say one thing about one player. The guy came into this playoff series, David Price. He had been 0-9, terrible record. Nobody could depend on him. And he stepped up. He pitched well. He did extra duty. He put himself in line to even come in relief, started games. I know Pierce was the MVP, but I could also give it to Price. He stepped up. He did a hell of a job.
Yep. Well, Pierce hit 2 home runs in the last game, and he had a big home run in Game 4. So, and they tend to give MVP awards to every down player.
Yeah.
So, he was deserving. But Price was great. And, but, something, the way the Dodgers were hitting, I think a lot of pitchers would have done. Well, I'm not taking anything away from Price. He was terrific. But he did a good job for him down the stretch, too. So he was a fairly dependable pitcher for him. And Sale did a good job when called on. And, the closer was good in every game but one. And it really wasn't his fault in that one game.
Yeah, it's great. We had a good season. Glad baseball is behind us. We'll pick it up again in April, obviously. Now we got the NBA. In another week or so, we got college basketball. We've got a lot to do here in football, college and pro. Hockey's going on. And this weekend, I got to tell you, everybody out there, Hank is amazing horse racing. The Breeders' Cup that comes up this week. We're going to have specials online for Hank for the Breeders' Cup. Hank, I'm looking forward to your plays for the Breeders' Cup. It should be exciting.
There's a horse running on Friday that you want to watch if you get a chance. I think his name is Sportscaster. In the 2-year-old, one of the 2-year-old races. He's going to be special. And there's a lot of good racing. The Euros, I think, will dominate the grass racing. And I think you might look for a possible upset in the Classic. Al Michaels called me yesterday. He always calls when he's going to make a pick in one of these big races that the network is carrying, and I gave him one who I'm going to put out. It's an exciting time for me. Friday, the racing will be. I think there's a big race that goes off at 6 o'clock Central Time at Churchill. They're not running night races on Friday, and all the big races will be late afternoon. So for the telecast.
That's exciting. We got a football game tonight. We got New England. You know, the line is dropping a little bit. We got New England a 13.5-point favorite. Some places still have 14, but the line is dropped. It's come down from 14 and 14.5 to 13.5. Some people taking the double-digit dog. That happens a lot in football because you know, people like to bet double-digit dogs, especially home dogs in division. But this is a pretty bad football team. This Buffalo Bill team. They got a decent defense, but offensively they are challenged.
Well, the only thing that could happen to New England is that they're saving guys for next week when Green Bay comes to town. And wait, Thursday, I don't know what they have against the Football Network, but Thursday is the all-time. You know, they had a bad matchup last Thursday where you had Houston going against Miami, but this is the all-time worst, where you got the 49ers against Oakland, and Oakland is pretty bad. Although in the Review Journal, Musburger keeps picking them, but they lose again. Their quarterback Carr, I guess he threw a few touchdown passes this week and kept them in the game for a while, but they wound up getting beat again. And why anybody would want to watch that game unless you're in the Bay Area is beyond me, because that's a real stiff of a game. And San Francisco was a big disappointment. They couldn't even beat Arizona this week, and that must have been a horrible game to watch.
I had it on. I wasn't paying super attention. I had several games on at one time, but they're a bad football team. Both of these guys are bad football teams. Somebody's got to win. Game is they opened the game San Francisco 3.5. Most places have it 3.5 or 3 plus with some big juice, and the total 47.5. Teams are going nowhere. John Gruden, Kyle Shanahan. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, I wouldn't. Honestly, I'll just give you to you right now. I could not be laying any points with San Francisco in this spot. I'd probably, if I have to play the game, I'll probably play the dog. Take 3.5. Anybody can win this game. No matchup.
Kansas City gave out a gift. They were winning the game by 10, and they wound up winning by 7 against Denver. But they beat them again. I think that's the 7th straight time that Andy Reid has beaten that team. And Denver loses another game on the road, but they covered. So they've covered 2 in a row now on the road because they beat Arizona. But Denver's a bad team, and that coach is going to be toast at the end of the year.
Yeah, you know, we talked about him being toast, and we also talked about the Arizona coach maybe being toast, but they changed their offensive coordinator. They did pick up a victory yesterday. Comeback. Rosen played pretty well down, the end of the fourth quarter. He made some good plays. There might be some hope for him. Next week we got a 5 o'clock game with 5 here in Vegas, 8 in New York. Rams against the Saints. We saw the Saints beat Vikings last night. Rams against the Saints. These are probably the 2 best NFC teams out there. and that's that's a hell of a game. I'm surprised at the line in this game, Hank. They opened the Rams won. It's pick'em now, just about everywhere. No, actually everywhere. But I guess they feel the Rams are at least a 3-point better team, but make it that kind of line. I don't agree with that point spread at this point at all. I don't agree with that number. Got another.
Where's the game?
It's in New Orleans.
Well, I'll tell you something about New Orleans. They're a better team on the road than they are at home, for some reason.
Well, this is going to be a big game. They both know they're both looking at the Super Bowl, and only one of them can get there. So.
Well, these two teams could wind up playing each other at the end of the year to get to the Super Bowl, which makes me think that perhaps they're going to hold back a little bit and play it like it's a preseason game. But I think it's more important for New Orleans to win than it is for the Rams to win because Carolina is breathing down New Orleans' neck right now. Carolina's playing very well, and they played a great game yesterday against Baltimore. Baltimore's the first time they've lost 2 games in a row in a long time. Flacco is reverted to his position as the most overpaid quarterback in the league. He threw 2 picks at unfortunate times in that game, and I think the Baltimore defense has just given up because as well as they can play, their quarterback doesn't give them anything, and they're always back on the field in 3-and-out situations. So Carolina's defense is playing well. Their secondary is supposed to be vulnerable, but their linebacking play is so good. And right now, Cam Newton is probably playing as well as he's ever played, and they're very well coached, and they could be very tough down the stretch. So, but the Rams don't have to win. I mean, they could hold back some things, knowing they're going to have to face New Orleans down the line. That's an oddball theory, but they may hold back some of their best stuff.
Well, anything's possible in football. This is a big TV game. Of course, you got another big game up the coast. The Chargers at Seattle. You know, I hate to bring this up, but Seattle has actually woke up. They're playing some pretty good football.
Well, they got a running game going, and their defense is playing well. They got right back for yesterday's game, and Detroit, Detroit had been playing very well. They had 5 straight covers. I thought Detroit had a chance to beat them. That was a tough game for me to play, so I didn't. Seattle, which hadn't been traveling all that well this year, now that they've got a defense and a running game, they're good to travel, and they may have that home field advantage again. And I just don't like Phillip Rivers in big games. And I think they find ways to lose those games. They don't have Bosa back yet, and so they're missing a key element on defense. And I couldn't take the Chargers in a game like that. I think the statue is going to be very vulnerable, and this is the type of game that the Chargers normally lose.
Seattle is, we all know, it always had been a very tough place to play. They lost a lot of that mojo as the team has been, lost a lot of players and et cetera, but they're playing very well, and Russell Wilson is, to me, there's really no one. He's a great player. He's a great player. And
well, they lost their home field edge. They've only covered 3 of their last 10 games at home.
I know.
But that's because they didn't have a running game. They lost their best running back, and he went to Oakland, and he's no longer a piece in Oakland's puzzle because he's out for the year. But anyway, they came up with 2 good young running backs, and so they've got a balanced offense, and so they can't put so much pressure on Russell now, and that's a big factor.
Yeah, yeah. You give that guy time. He's a very accurate passer. He's great with his legs. That running game that they have now has really balanced it out. Right now they're the better. To me, they're a better team than the Chargers are, especially playing.
A friend of mine went to Alex Spanos' funeral, and he was very impressed with the San Diego, or the Chargers, you know, you want to call him San Diego, but anyway, with the Charger coach's size. He's a huge guy. I didn't realize it. We're just watching him on the sidelines, but anyway, and he has the respect of his players, but they've never really gotten it going. Just when you think they're getting it going, they find ways to lose, and that's still happening with them. They showed that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they definitely have that type of personality where they kind of lose focus. The intensity has never been there with the Chargers. You go back to the days when they had such great talent and they never made it all the way. And it's just the personality they have, and they can't get rid of it. But they're capable. They're definitely capable. The NBA has been going on. I don't know if you've been really gotten into it yet, Hank. But
I watched a couple of games. I thought the Lakers had a great game against Denver the other night and beat them at home. They won 2 games in a row, and then they went on the road and lost a game. But they're coming together, and you know what's surprising about a lot of people about the Lakers is that Bonzo or Gonzo, whatever they call him, has played very well. He's dishing the ball off. He's been throwing some terrific passes, and he's averaging about 12 points a game, which is perfect for him right now. And he's earned himself a starting job there. And you know, I'll tell you something. Walton has done a good job in the way that he's resting LeBron, giving him sufficient rest so that he's available for the stretch running games. And so I think they're going to be a factor later on. And that'll be an interesting race to watch. And college basketball starts this week, actually. And so there'll be a lot of interesting teams to watch as they get going. So
that is
early tournaments to look at, and some teams play some cupcakes early so they can help some of these smaller schools with some sellouts, and so don't knock them for playing some setups.
No, they got to get their their rotations and everybody in sync, and there's a lot of exhibition games that most people don't even know about that happen. But yeah, it gets started, and these teams will round into shape. There's a lot of great talent out there, and there's a few sleepers, and you know we're gonna pick and choose, and
there's a few coaches who are going to be in a little bit of trouble right now, including Bill Self, which is a little bit of a shocker, who did some things recruiting-wise, working with the shoe companies that they should not have been involved with. And so Rick Pitino's not the only guy who's out of the job now. And it'll be interesting to keep an eye on the Kansas situation and see what happens with the coach there. And there are a couple other schools that are going to be involved. So stay tuned in that situation.
That's true. Lots going on. Hank, I know you got a busy day ahead of you, and so do I. And thanks for your update today and your input. We'll come back and do this again on Wednesday. We'll have more information. We'll check the injuries, et cetera, et cetera. We'll have.
I had a real dilemma last night because I was watching the football game and keeping track of it, and I had my cell phone on the World Series, so I could watch both because that was an important game for me in the World Series because I did what I recommended and took the Red Sox in 5, and I got a fancy payoff on it because I got 5-1. So
it's a good price. I had the same thing. I had them in 5 as well. I followed you on that, actually, and I thank you for that. And Hank will be back again on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Go to jimfeist.com for Hank's Plays. Don't forget the Breeders' Cup is this week. You don't want to miss Hank's Plays. Hank, we'll talk to you again on Wednesday.
all right, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you, buddy.